multilingual.org. So thank you for having me and thank you for joining us. My name is Celestina. I'm a reading specialist and first grade teacher with DC Public Schools. 2 weeks from now will be my 12th year teaching first grade in DC. I'm here in this webinar, and I think here in a more like holistic spiritual sense because I know that education can transform the life outcomes of kids, and it did for me. I've wanted to be a teacher since I was in first grade. You can see me in my little New York City PS 205 fit there. And that little girl got very lucky with the opportunities that were afforded to her, which led to her mom wearing that Harvard sweatshirt a couple decades later. But a system that demands luck for children that look like me and my mom and many of you is inequitable by design, not by accident, but through intentional and systematic barriers that have been raised to keep people out. And that's never been okay with me, and I'm sure that's not okay with any of you, and that's why we're here. Access to effective evidence-based literacy instruction is our students' civil right. And learning as much as we can together about how to bring our A game and level up our instruction matters. And I am, in the trenches every day, like all of you, just trying to get myself together and figure it out and learn as much as I can. And I am very far from knowing everything, but I am very curious and I'm very scrappy. So I promise if you ask me something I don't know, I will do my best to figure it out for you. I'm so honored that you're here today, and I can't wait to learn alongside you. I'd love to know a little bit about who's in the room because I already see some folks that I know. So show me some love in the chat, any emoji you wish, if you work with K2 students. You see some emojis for my K2 people. Those are my people. Oh yes. Oh, hi, Irene, my SIPS legend. If you work with 3 through 5 student. Oh, hi, Emerald, my Institute pal, my 3 through 5 people. If you work with educators. Yep, a lot of coaches. I saw on the sign up. If you work with middle or high school students. Right. Oh, Miss Jeanette. I saw Miss Jeanette and Miss Brenda sign up. Those are my DMV ladies. Oh, hi, Claire, Dr. Gunner. If you are coming from an OLC member org. Oh, I love the brain emoji. If you're a tutor, our OUSD tutors, thank you for all you do. And if you supervise or direct a program. Oh, hi, Martha. Yes, literacy liberators. And of course, if we're already besties because you attended the Spring Institute, I already saw some of my pals in here, and I'm so glad to see you again. Yes, thank you. And as Jen mentioned, if you have a second after you put your emoji in the chat, if you can quickly do the poll, we'll close that in a second.
Yeah, and I want to apologize, Celestina. I was supposed to drop in the poll before. I'm modeling learner vulnerability and making mistakes, but we really want to kind of gauge everyone's background knowledge and confidence so that we can know really when to zoom ahead and when to slow down. So really appreciate you taking a moment to do the poll.
Yes. This is very helpful. All right, I'll let y'all, Annette or Jen, whenever you want to close that, go right ahead. All right, well, today we're going to dig into what is even a vowel, why is vowel knowledge so important for decoding, what are the types of vowels, and what practices, right? This is really the part we want to talk about, the practicality of what can we do to best support our students to build their vowel knowledge. Oops, sorry. So let's start by just grounding ourselves in what is a vowel. This is a private little note taking for yourself. You can use the note taking guide that was put into the put into the chat earlier. You can use a post-it, you can use your phone, whatever feels most comfortable to you. Just what is your definition of a vowel? Let's just take about a minute. All right. I saw from the poll, so many of you are already like very secure in your vowels. So I love that. So we can learn and lead from each other. Um, And some folks might have said A, E, I, O, U, or sometimes Y. And and yes, right? Those are some letters that spell some vowels in English. And today we're going to be definitely using those five little letters a lot. But we're also going to be thinking about vowels as phonemes, right? As speech sounds. And the vowel phonemes, or the English sounds, are the ones in our language that are voiced. So our vocal cords vibrate and they're open. Air is flowing freely through your mouth without getting too obstructed by your teeth, your tongue, or your lips. My Institute friends know I love a good voicing exercise. So wherever you are, you can put your hand on your throat, right? And let's try one for some of our familiar phonemes. Let's try the sound that A can spell. Ah, feel it. Ah, you feel your throat vibrating. And let's compare that to the sound that S spells, right? Or the sound that F spells, right? We don't feel that vibrating. Those are unvoiced, vowels are voiced. They're also continuous. You can hold them until you run out of breath, right? Let's try for the sound that E spells. Wherever you are, I hope you're singing. Not feeling obstructed. I can hold that, but try to hold the sound for B. B, b, b. That's what we call a stop sound, right? I can't sing that one, but our vowels are continuous, they're open. One of the key understandings that we'll get today is that every single syllable, which could be a word or part of a word, has at least one vowel sound. Every time you say a syllable, you are saying a vowel. So we know that we just practice right there open, our mouth, our chin's dropping a little bit when we're saying a vowel. So you can put your hand right under your chin and you're going to feel it drop every time you say a vowel. Say cat, cat. One drop, one vowel sound. Now say sunset. Sunset. Oh, I see my friend Miss Brenda moving. Sunset, right? Two vowel sounds. There's two syllables in that word, right? Vowels are really powerful. They're often called the nucleus of a syllable. And you're thinking back to your, biology class days, right? The nucleus is the control center of the cell, and our vowels are the control center. The vowel lets us know how that word is going to be pronounced. And just like there's a vowel in every word that you say, there's going to be a vowel spelling in every word that you read. But what we'll explore today is that that can feel tricky because each vowel can be spelled in a few different ways. Like we hear in the word lead, ed, but we also hear it in the word bread, ed, one spelled E, one spelled EA. To add just to make it a little bit more exciting, the same spelling can actually represent some different vowel sounds, right? So we saw that EA in bread spelling eh, but we also see EA in heat spelling E, the long sound. So readers have to grasp the phonology, the sounds of the language, and also the orthography, right? The written system, the spelling, right? And we're going to talk about both of those today. And as Jen mentioned, we've got a range of vowel knowledge and expertise in the room, and that's great. That's always what we want. Thank you for my experts here so I can lean on you. And even if you're new to thinking about language or reading instruction in this exact way, you probably don't even realize the expertise that you already have with vowels, right? So let's take a look at these words. I made these up. They're not real. They're silly. They are complete nonsense words. And I'm going to take a look at this first word here. And do I have a brave soul who will unmute themselves to try to read this silly word? And I can't really see too many of your faces. So just unmute yourself. Be brave.
Zortbo, Feestope.
Hello, thank you, right? These are made up words. They just came I literally made them up for my brain. But what you knew is you already knew something about that OR, right? You knew something about that OR sound. You knew something about that O at the
Yes.
end because you didn't say Zorba,
Hmm.
even though we know O can say O like octopus. You knew something about that E. And you also knew something about this OPE, the silent E, and this vowel coming before it, right?
Correct.
So when we're talking, thank you. Can you tell me your name?
Kashini.
Hi, Kashini. Oh, hi. Yes. Good to see you again.
Good to
Um,
see you again.
um, but that's a big part of what we're talking about with vowel knowledge is recognizing patterns in written language that help us decode unknown words. And you should be impressed with yourself because you've internalized these things perhaps without even noticing it. But printed syllables have some I would say fairly predictable pronunciations, right? And that can help us to decode unknown words. And we want to empower our students with those. So, thinking about those patterns in English, words fall roughly into these 6 categories or syllable types or patterns. An acronym that's helpful to remember all of them, but is not the order that we teach them in, is CLOVER, right? And today we're going to touch on closed syllables, open syllables, vowel teams, and VCE syllables. And you'll see that closed syllables and open syllables are, they make up 75% of all syllables in English. So we're going to get a good bang for our buck there. I also want to mention that different programs approach teaching syllable types differently, or may call them different things, or encourage students to use them in slightly different ways. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. But for example, like Orton Gillingham explicitly teaches all 6 of these types hard. Um, SIPS, the extension level, teaches all these syllable types very explicitly. Love it. UFLI teaches the terms open, closed, and this final constant, this final stable syllable that we won't talk about today, but is very helpful very explicitly, and then takes a more pattern approach to vowel teams, VCE, and R controlled because they're taught really, really well in single syllable, right? So there's some different approaches, but at the end of the day, what these are patterns like the ones that you notice in those silly words I made up. And those patterns directly affect the sound of the vowel. So, knowing and being able to recognize these syllable types and patterns is really critical for decoding. So, instead of leaving it up to chance that kids will pick up and internalize these or waiting for however long they do, students can be explicitly and systematically taught them. If that chart of syllable types, like I was really grateful for the poll to see kind of where folks are coming from. And thank you for, again, the expertise and for the people who are jumping in today. If that was new for you, amazing, great, thank you. It was brand new for me, and that was after I had already attempted to teach hundreds of kids how to read. So I feel you. And as I already said, there's a lot that I don't know, but if there's one thing that I've learned is that there are research and our understanding of how to practically apply that research is constantly and like continually evolving and shifting. And that can be intimidating. And that's why we have to be doing this work together. So let's jump into our first vowel type, right? And so we've all likely seen an alphabet like this. Maybe you had one similar in your classroom growing up. But when we check out the vowels on here, right, when we see A like an apple, E like an egg, these visuals are only telling part of the vowel story for our kids, right? These are just one type of vowel. So A like an apple, E like an edge. By the way, a lot of programs and curricula don't use egg as a keyword for that short E because in many places it's pronounced like egg. And a lot of programs moved away from using elephant, which was like the classic, right? Like I love that one. I still use it sometimes. But a lot of kids hear L, they blend those first 2 sounds together and it sounds like the letter L, which can be confusing. So you'll see edge and echo in a lot of programs now. Or I as in itch, ah, O as in octopus, like ah, up. These are our short vowels, right? And we can do our check. You can check for yourself. Is it vibrating? Is it open? Eh, ah, uh. These are the first vowel sounds that students are introduced to. And you might be wondering, well, I've always read those words, but why is the vowel short in those words, right? Why isn't that word ape or eat? Well, it's because these are closed syllables. Closed syllables have one vowel that's followed by one or more consonants. And when we see this pattern, we know the vowel is very likely to be short. So if we look at this word, right, we see there's one vowel, the A. It's followed by P, it's getting closed in by that consonant. It's saying the short vowel, A, apple, ah. It doesn't matter if there's no consonant before that vowel, like in the word at, as long as it's got that one vowel followed by one or more consonants being closed in. Doesn't matter if there's multiple, like in the word chat that come before, as long as you got that one vowel closed in. It also doesn't matter if there's multiple consonants after that one vowel, right? This is a very this is one of the most stable syllable types. And so remember, this is 45%. So this is, again, bang for your buck, a great place to start. It also makes sense that we introduce these to students when they're first learning how to map letters to sounds because they're most consistent. That's why we do, right? That's why you hear CVC words in kindergarten. CVC words are closed syllable. When I first learned about closed syllables, first of all, my mom was just blown in general, but like my trainer said, okay, if a kid can read a word like cat, that's a closed syllable, then they can start to read two-syllable words like sunset, which is just two closed syllables, or even words like fantastic, because fantastic is basically just cat, 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 right? And so closed syllables can unlock so many words for kids, even big words. But these are not the only vowel sounds we hear, right? We see those same letters, switching it up and making a different sound in these words, like tape, where A is spelling A, peach, where E is spelling E, sight, where I is spelling I. And this is where we're starting to see a fundamental truth about vowels that we might take for granted, but that we need to explain explicitly to kids. English vowels are variable, right? They are variable, and that's not true across all languages. So these, A as in acorn, eagle, I as in ice cream, O as in open, U as in unicorn or cute. Those are our long vowels, right? And something I always have to remind myself is that long vowel is not a particularly helpful name. Like even this year, I had a student, sweet as can be, ML student. And when I was introducing this, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm killing it. My kids are getting it. And then she would read a word like this, t, app, at. She was literally making the short vowel sound long, right? Because that's actually not a particularly helpful name. Really, what linguists say is that these are tense. They're not actually longer. I think in yesteryear, they actually were at one time in language, but they're not, right? They're not really. They're tense, right? If you compare like ah to o, if you compare to e, they're tenser sounds, right? So that's what linguists actually call them. And those names can actually be a little bit tricky for kids. So when I first introduced this, I used this little chant. Nobody's paying me to sing, but I'm gonna just do my best for you, right? But just to help them remember, right? Long vowels say their name, long vowels say their name. A, E, I, O, U, ooh, yes, they say their name. And you're like, okay, ooh, but yeah, U has two long sounds, right? Because think about words like flute or tube, because it's not flute, like with the same one as in cute. It's not tube, it's tube. So that's a common sound. It's good to introduce kids to it. Um, just one aside, right, is that songs like this, visual keywords like this, these are scaffolds. They're temporary. They're there at the beginning to introduce something and make something sticky for kids to grab onto to support them, right? This is one of my favorite buildings of all time. This is here in DC. This is the Museum of African American History and Culture. Gorgeous. When they were building it, needed a ton of scaffolding, right? But look at it now, right? This building is gorgeous, right? It would be such a bummer if it was still covered in scaffolding, right? We want to make room for that beautiful learning. As soon as kids don't need that, take it away because at the end of the day, we don't need them to be able to look as they're reading at a picture of an acorn. They have to look at that and know the long sound with automaticity. So pulling those away, those supports as students are able, is something that I've been really working on in my practice. Um, so those words that we looked at, tape, Pete, cite, note, cute, right? These are BCE syllable pattern words. It's another syllable type where you got a vowel, a consonant, then that silent E. We know when we see this, that vowel is typically going to spell that long sound like A, or in this word, the O is going to spell the long sound O. It's where we get broke. Um, Show me some of these words in the chat. Show me some BCE words. Beautiful kite. Shape, bake, nice snake, mice, make, gorgeous. Yep, beautiful. So a lot of times we hear time, beautiful place. So a lot of times we hear these called um this is magic e, or this is sneaky e, and that's cute. Kids love it. I use it still too. But one tweak I've made is making sure that I'm still referring to that e at the end as a silent e, and being like, this is a magic e syllable, but that e is still silent, because it helps them when they encounter other words where silent e is not being magical or bossy, right? Silent e actually has like 7 jobs. Silent E is a hustler, a lot of work, right? So like for example, silent E makes C or G make its soft sound in the words like dance or range, making sure that V is in the last letter in a word. Look, I see like exactly like have or give, right? And this is just another, if you empower kids with that, right? That E is silent at the end of a word, it's just another tidbit of vowel knowledge that can transfer to them when they get to other word types. So yes, still cute. But we also hear the long vowel sound in words like me, he, she, be. These words are open syllables. Unlike closed syllables, there's no consonant closing them in. So there's one vowel that is not being followed by any consonants, like in the word me. Me, there's nothing after it. It's the last letter in the syllable. We make the long sound E, me. Same for go. That's why go is spelling the long sound. When there's one vowel that's not followed by any consonants, it's long. So we're going to transform some words together. So I invite you, please, to be brave and unmute yourself and read some words with me, okay? All right, I'm going to get my first word. Let's read it together.
Got.
Got. All right. What's a new word?
Go.
Oh, ooh, went from short to long. All right, what's my word?
Hid.
What's my new word?
High.
Hi. What's my word?
Men.
Let me change it up. What's my new word?
Me.
Me. Thank you. Right? So when I introduce this, I love using a sentence strip with like a physical flap. So I think there's something really sticky about kids being able to close and open that syllable so they really see visually that it's changing, and then they could hear how that sound, the vowel sound changes from short to long or long to short. But you might be saying, well, like, there's not that many words like that, right? Go, no, me, he, she. There's not that many of those words. But let's think about a word like this, right? If I was in kindergarten, it would make total sense for me to say hot L, hotel. But that's not a thing. So I need to have something else in my arsenal to try, right? I have to know that I can split that word in another way, or I at least have to know that that O can spell a different sound O. So I can try hotel. Same thing for words like donut. Donut, that makes total sense, right? But I have to know that O can make the other sound. So I can just try donut. Remember, 30% of all syllables are open syllables. So that's a lot. These matter a lot for multisyllabic words, right? And I would be remiss, and I'm so glad my words in the wild people are here on the call. we have to say it, right? You cannot be a proficient reader of multisyllabic words without morphology, period, dot, right? Morphology has to be explicitly taught, right? English is what we call a morphophonemic language. Sound parts like phonemes and syllables matter a lot. Also, units of meaning, which we call morphemes, matter a lot. So we don't have time for all that here, but the OLC did an amazing session with Words in the Wild that's recorded. There's also a video in the OLC Learning Library. If you are new to morphology, like I was a few years ago, it is not as scary as it sounds, promise. Even my first graders do morphology, and it is absolutely essential. So I'm sad we can't get into it now, but yes, that's just another part of reading multisyllabic words proficiently. So let's take a second and let's use some of our knowledge and get collaborating in some breakout rooms, okay? So you're gonna click on the Padlet that's gonna go in the chat in a second, and you will find the slide of your breakout room number. It's in the upper right-hand corner. So when you get in your breakout room, if I'm in 3, I'm looking for the slide that says 3. Get in there, please introduce yourself to your new friends. You're gonna say each word out loud. Say each word out loud. Listen, right? We're paying attention to the phonology with this activity. Are you hearing the short sound or the long sound? Remember, long vowels say their name. Keep that in your head. We're gonna do this for about 5-6 minutes. And that's gonna help us move into our breakout rooms. Again, don't forget to introduce yourself and say hi. Thank you for making your way back. It was beautiful to see your work in some of those slides, applying some of what we've been practicing. You know, you've been doing your work with, you were really paying attention to the phonology, right? The sounds of those vowels with that work. Beautiful job. Feel free to unmute any noticings, any wonderings or reflections as you did that. You can feel free to unmute. I can't really see you, unfortunately, but either way, beautiful job. And guess what? There's more. There's more to vowels than just open and closed and BCE, right? We also hear long vowel sounds in words like this. These are the same vowel sounds, but spelled in a different way, right? Our variable vowels. We hear that A sound in stay, but spelled with AY. We hear O spelled OA in words like boat, right? And we call these vowel team syllables. They have 2 or more letters that are spelling the vowel sound. And this is when we're like really getting the party started, right? Because this is when we really have to be paying attention to phonology and orthography. So we've got, oh, no worries, Emily. Thank you for yours. Right, so let's look at the letters and the sounds. So I see this word C. It has 3 letters. But now I'm going to stretch on my fingers for the sounds. My institute friends, we practice this a lot. C. S, E. It's got 3 letters, but it's got 2 sounds. E, even though it's 2 letters, is representing 1 vowel sound E. All right, let's try it for pray. Feel free to unmute. You're brave. You can do this. We're in our learning space together. Pray. How many letters? can even just hold it up. Yep, I see someone holding up 4 letters, but now let's stretch it. A, how many sounds? 3 sounds. Yes, Emerald. Now we got bright. How many letters?
Six.
Yep, 6 letters, but now let's stretch it. I.
I.
4 sounds, right? Because that IGH is 3 letters representing 1 vowel sound. So we really have to be paying attention again to the phonology, the sound, and also the spelling, the orthography. So let's really think about this because this is where it can become really, really tricky for kids, right? I'm going to think about just right now the long E sound. We're going to write some words in the chat that have the long E sound. I'm going to give us our first one. Eagle. This is one way to spell E, E-A. But give me some other ones. What other kind of words do you hear? E, money, sleep, eat. Yep, meat and eat. Good. Where else do we hear that? E, B, C, we. Yes, me, feet. Lots, right? Lots of different spellings of that long E sound. Treat. Gorgeous, right? We got this open syllable in me. We've got this VCE in these. A vowel team B, EE, EY, IE in chief. This one always gets me. EI in stealing. Right? At the end of the word, in a word like funny. Yep, I see Jen had happy. Right? And this is what funny. What's spelling E in funny? Y. So that brings us to our sometimes why, right? We've said this probably since we were in kindergarten ourselves or pre-K. AEI sometimes why, but let's really think about it, right? So you can do this on your note catcher, you can do this on your phone, you can do this on a post-it. We're going to take 1 minute and we're going to write as many words as you can think of that start with the letter Y. Not names, don't do a name, but words that start with Y. I'm going to start my timer. Twenty more seconds. Words that start with Y, no names. And oh, that was much more obnoxious than I anticipated. Sorry. Okay, now I'm gonna take another minute. Words that end with Y. Words that end with Y. Take another minute. About 10 more seconds, and I promise I'm gonna stop this one before that crazy sound. Promise you, and I let you down. It won't happen again. I'm sorry. I try my best to stop it. All right. I would bet that that second list was a little easier to make and was likely longer. Check your lists. Which one felt longer to you and which one felt easier to make?
No.
Well,
I'm wondering, Celestine, if we could ask someone to put their voice in the room about how much share the number for each list.
please.
Ron Vocally, who haven't we heard from that would like to share? See how we're practicing our wait time right now, just for the brave soul to unmic and share the numbers of their lists.
Okay.
Thanks, Jeanette.
I had more in the second list than the first. Do you want the words or what do you want? I mean,
No, just
You can tell.
go ahead.
okay. For the first list, I had yes, yeah, yikes, yellow, and Yosemite. The second list was many, jelly, Amy, steamy, creamy, dreamy, crazy, hazy.
Love it.
So
Thank you. I see Miss Brenda, you're also raising your hand.
It was difficult. For the first list, I have yes, year, yep, yearning, yellow, yard, you.
That was good.
For the second list, I have happy, pappy, morphology,
Oh,
telepathy, and radiology.
okay. You chose that one for music to our ears. Good job. Yes, but as Kashidi said in the chat, like for many of us, words ending in Y were probably came to mind a bit easier because Y actually only spells the consonant sound y. Some people say ye. Some people say ye. That's like it's a new debate for that sound of the consonant. That's not the hill that I die on. There are some phonological hills that I would. If you want to die on that one, I respect you and I'll miss you. But I say you, like like in the beginning of yellow. But it only spells that sound y of a consonant at the beginning of a word or a syllable. And there's this really cool tool from Merriam-Webster. It's called Word Finder, and you can look up common words that end, start, or contain any pattern. I put it in the resources for our session today too. And so for words that start with Y, there are only 7 common ones, right? And like besides like you, yes, year, a lot of these are not even that common. How often are kids or you or anybody reading or talking about yachts or yeast, right? It's there's not that many. But we see words like this where Y is spelling the long E sound, funny, happy, silly all the time, right? Y spells long E when there's more than one syllable, so funny at the end. But it can spell long I, like try, my, fly, when there's one syllable words. Sometimes it even spells short I in words like myth, or rhythm, which people are always like, rhythm has no vowels, but it does, right? The Y is spelling I, and those are pretty rare because they're some Greek origin words, but the vast majority of the time, Y is actually spelling a vowel sound. So by ignoring it as a vowel, we do kids a disservice, right? And so this is something that's been huge in my practice, introducing Y as a vowel much earlier because it comes up a lot. But Y isn't the only letter that's coming in there and bringing us some of that vowel variability. All long vowels have multiple different spellings. They're a lot more variable than short vowels. And so, this is also in the resources. It's a sound spelling chart from, if you guys don't know the Lit Champs or Litville, some of the cutest decodables ever, doing some beautiful work in Pennsylvania, just like getting started in a pandemic, getting decodable books and these charts into barbershops in the community. Look them up, but they offer this free chart it's super cute. That shows you, right, the variability in the spellings, the orthography that students really need to know. I love sharing this poem that one of my students a couple of years ago, one of my first graders, wrote at the end of the year. And I'll just read it to you. Sushi. Sushi, sushi, yummy taste. Just don't let the sauce drip on your face. Sushi, sushi, seaweed from the sea. Maybe it's a little salty. Rice and avocado, sushi, sushi. And so like obviously, first of all, she just gets repetition and rhyme and rhythm as a poet, but look at all those different long vowel spellings she had to know. And this is the end of first grade, right? Y at the end of a word spelling, long E, some VCE, some vowel teams, right? This is a lot, and this is the level of proficiency that even as a first grader, she's able to achieve, and that like we also need her to be able to read proficiently and spell. Um, so English often gets like a bad rap as being crazy, and it's not crazy, right? It has some, I love, there's a researcher named Perfetti who says there's some exemplary regularities, right? There's a lot of reason and order to it, but it is quasi-regular and it demands flexibility. I need to be able to take a written word like this on a page and try all, and then have the knowledge to go in there and try something else for that vowel, right? Even though my teacher taught me about closed syllables, right? This doesn't follow that rule, right? But the only reason I'm able to go in there and go ol is because of my oral vocabulary. It's because I know the word scroll, right? And so this is where I really want to stress the importance of oral vocabulary. It makes me think of when I first encountered this. You might know what this is right away. But when I was in college, I saw it for the first time. And I read it on a menu and they described it, right? These like potato dumplings covered in pesto. And I will eat anything made from a potato. And I love pesto. So when I saw it, the word on the menu, I'll show you the word. Hold on, they're coming. Oops, sorry. Right? I said ganaki, right? Because why wouldn't I? Right? I didn't have that word. It's an Italian word. I didn't have it in my vocabulary, so I couldn't go back and fix up my pronunciation, which is actually gnocchi, which I know now, right? You have to know the word to be able to go back and fix it up, right? So this is where we bow down to our caregivers. Thank you, parents. We thank our early childhood educators who are building that foundation for reading with oral vocabulary. This is why we teach vocabulary explicitly every single day and expose kids to words and teach them, because that flexibility in this pronunciation, it has to be in your oral vocabulary, right? It has to, at least in your receptive vocabulary, you have to know it. I always think about something I heard Dr. Julie Washington say. It's like, if you want readers, you better let those kids talk, right? We're always like, okay, like be quiet, this is a silent time. But kids need to be talking if they're going to become proficient readers, right? They need this language. So oral language is huge. And I think this word, and I mean like word from Zaretta Hammond, really brings a lot of these strands together. So I'm going to play that quickly.
What are some of those small things right now that feel most important for educators to be thinking about? How long vowels work. I know it. Here's the thing. I think we keep back to distraction. What is actually going to make a difference for those children, whether you like them or not, is long vowel agility, word well, syllabification. Doesn't sound sexy, but the reality is once students have those skills and they move on, they will always have those skills. It never is going long. Knowing how long vowels work is never going to fall out of your head. Mm-hmm.
And I love that, right? Like this, again, it might not sound like the most sexy learning that your kids have ever done, but this is essential knowledge. When kids have a strong grasp on the phonology and orthography of long vowels, it unlocks open syllables. It unlocks VCE syllables. It unlocks vowel teams, not all, but many, right? This is a huge, huge, huge sort of benefit that we can give our kids through explicit instruction. We're about to have a moment of reflection, but I gotta be honest with you that we didn't touch on all vowels, right? There's all these other vowels like in the word book, or aw, which for many people like me sounds the same as short o, aw. If you're interested in that, look up caught merger. Fascinating stuff. We didn't talk about those. We can talk about these weird guys, our diphthongs, which slide in your mouth in two positions. Oi, ow. We didn't talk about R control vowels like R, or And we didn't even talk about this guy, the schwa, right? If you know, you know, right? This is the most common vowel sound in English, actually. It's an unstressed syllable. We hear it at the end of words like pand, Why is that A spelling right? At the end of my own name, Celestine, We don't say drag on, we say drag in. That O sounds like I. And the word the, right? This is a really important piece of vowel knowledge that our kids need. And there's a really cute book by Yvette Mans. It's part of a series that she has that I highly recommend to introduce kids or yourself to this. Yes, Claire loves it. It's one of there. Yes, there's a series. They're so cute. Highly recommend. But yeah, like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember. It's fine. It's fine. We don't have all day. I wish we did. I'm fine. We're fine. But hopefully we'll have more time to dig into those other ones at another date. But let's think about what we have gone over so far. Um, this activity is called a thinking routine, and it comes out of Project Zero, which is just this incredible hub of teaching and learning. And their whole thing is about making learning visible, right? Because deep thinking, information processing, that's what helps us to remember, consolidate, and actually use our learning. So I highly recommend checking it out for your students and also for like any adult learning purposes. It's it's really great. They also have a very cool teacher institute called WISIT here in DC if you want to come crash on my couch ever. And they also offer a lot of support for teachers and programs from Title I schools. It's just a great place to learn and practice. But we're going to take a second and reflect on what connections do we have to what you maybe already knew about vowels? What has been extended or broadened? What question, challenges, or puzzles are coming up? And you're going to find this in that same Padlet on slide 7. So we'll put that link in the chat again. We're going to take 3 minutes silent solo. So you can stay here. We're going to take 3 minutes silent solo. And then we're going to go into breakout rooms just to share a little bit about what's coming up for you. Either a connection, an extension, or a challenge. So let's take 3 minutes on our own in that Padlet on slide 7.
Yeah.
A really common challenge that transition from short to
Yeah.
vowel instruction. Thank you for raising that.
Mhm.
Hopefully we're gonna have some time for just some more discussion and questions at the end too. But I think, thank you so much for all of these reflections and insights, right? And that this is really a a beginning of a conversation and hopefully to delve into more learning. And we'll talk a little bit about that from short to long vowels and how to kind of differentiate those now as we move into the practice piece. So yeah, now that's our next piece of jumping into the and if you want to put any reflections in the chat for us as we're going through this, that is welcome and appreciated.
Okay. Sure.
So how do we develop this, right? Like how do we support this knowledge in our students and this flexibility? Well, first and forever, these letter sound correspondences have to be automatic. We review vowels every day. Automaticity is our goal. Yes, Jennifer, perfect practice makes perfect. It makes permanent, right? They have to be able to get and access these effortlessly. And so one part of deliberate practice is retrieval. And we can talk about this a lot. Retrieval practice, I'm obsessed with it. But if you are concerned with getting knowledge stuck in the brain, you got to practice pulling it out, right? After it's been explicitly taught, right? If you haven't explicitly taught it, that's not going to work. But what we know is that every time we retrieve information, it becomes our learning becomes stronger and it becomes easier to retrieve in the future. And sometimes these like retrieval practices get a bad rap, but retrieval doesn't have to be boring, right? So like my institute friends, we played this game, right? This heads up game where you're putting one spelling on your head, the student says what it is, and then the teacher guesses what the spelling was. And then they can switch, right, to practice. You can see a picture of that. Just a nice review. It's a fun way to do kind of a mix-up of a typical flashcard. We'll watch this quick video of a game that I play with my students called Hide It. Say the sound, flip over the letter fast. No, Tiger, keep going. Good, you're going so fast. Good. That one is good. Not good. Yes. Say the sound. Say the- You found the tiger. Good job. Right? This is the level of audit. It doesn't have to be boring, but this is the level of automaticity we need. Like she's actually got to get a little bit faster. A new one that I heard of from Dr. Burns, he's also at University of Florida, is called pocket words, right? So if you were introducing spelling E, you could put 4 words on a card, have it on a little note card. The kid keeps it in their pocket all day, and at random times in the day, you say pocket words, and they have to pull it out and read it to you, right? It's that retrieval at different points of the day. I particularly like that one because something that we know about the brain is that practice that's spaced out is actually more effective than what we call mass practice or doing a bunch of practice all at once. So instead of drilling something for 10 minutes, peel, seam, do it for 30 seconds a few times during the day, right? And I just love this quote from Dr. Lane from UFLI, right? Is that we know that kids need drills to learn an instrument, to learn sports, but they need this for reading too, right? Our students have to be able to recognize and decode these vowel spellings accurately and automatically. So I just wanted to also mention that when we're talking about syllable types and vowel patterns, I just wanted to share an interesting insight from a researcher named Devin Kearns around syllable division, right? So sometimes some programs like teach these specific rules for how to divide multisyllabic words. So like if you see a word like that has a vowel, a consonant, and a vowel, they teach you that you should always split it after the vowel so that you can read the word basic. And they might show you these different markings for a long vowel or a short vowel. And this can be really helpful for many kids, but sometimes rigid syllable division rules don't always serve kids because not all of them are especially reliable and really dependent on the type of vowel. So he investigated this like huge corpus of words, and there's a lot of variability. Shocker, English, right? Variability. So one thing is no matter what type of syllable division process you want to support kids with, it always starts with noticing the vowels. Always, right? So even if you're doing a flexible strategy, this is what Devin Kern suggests, right? Like finding the vowel, you have to notice the vowels and you have to be able to then try something else. If you don't know that EA is a vowel team, you're not going to notice that as a vowel. If you don't know R control vowels ER, you can't notice that, right? So Anita Archer has a very similar flexible strategy that she uses, a program called Really Great Reading. But again, why I bring this back is that, it's fascinating work in the field. But again, whether you're talking about more structured syllabification process or a more flexible approach, it all starts with knowing the vowels automatically, right? Not knowing your vowel spellings is a non-starter. So we got to get those together automatically. Another thing to keep in mind is that we should focus on the practice of the most frequent vowel team spellings. Don't overdo the unfrequent ones, right? So I won't name the program, but this program had me practicing O-E, to-O every day. That is such an infrequent, like think about how many words do you know that have O, that spelling for long O. It's very, very uncommon, right? And so it seems like rude. It's like, you're not very popular. You can't sit with us. But like, I'm not practicing OE every day. You can't sit with us. Like, that doesn't make sense. And it's not just because it's a way, maybe taking away from instructional time, but it's because I also want them to know what's more likely, right? So let's think about EA. EA head eh. That's one spelling, but that's only 17% of the time versus EA A spelling E, like in eat, it spells E 64% of the time. In the resources, I put this spelling catalog. I use that bad boy all the time, right? I look at it. I want to know what's most common. I want to know what I'm going to focus my teaching on. EA can also spell eh, like in the steak or long A. Ache, it's spelling long A. Steak, 6% of the time. So do I want to practice EA steak A every day? I don't. I don't want my students to think that that is just as likely. Our brains are constantly running statistics and picking up on patterns, and this applies to our interaction with print. We call this statistical learning. So for example, here's a word with some missing letters. Could this letter that's missing be K? I see some head shakes. No, it couldn't be K. You've never in your life seen a word start with BLK, right? Probably something in your gut is telling you it's a vowel. What about this second one? Could it be V? Could that last letter be V? No. There's actually no words in English that end with V. And even if you didn't know that consciously, probably something was telling you like that doesn't look right. And that's because your brain is running these statistics, right? And I don't want to skew my students like natural understanding that's budding of the distribution of different patterns by putting super infrequent patterns in front of them at the same rate as frequent ones. That's also why we can't keep our kids in super decodable text forever. If you know me, I love decodables. I live for them. I write them. I'm obsessed with them. They're a powerful tool. And, right, you have to give kids exposure to less controlled text so they can strengthen their statistical learning and fly as readers, right? They have to learn like what is possible. Also follow your scope and sequence. This is SIP scope and sequence. It's like, right, like we know effective phonics instruction is systematic. So we can't just be making up as we go along, jumping all over the place, right? SIP starts with short vowels, of course, they're the least variable. That's what we want our kids to be doing first. Then moves on to VCE, introducing that long sound. Then makes this really strategic choice that I love to introduce EE and EA, which are super frequent high utility vowel teams, and then go into R control, right? So if you're teaching SIPs, follow this scope and sequence. It was made that way for a reason. If you're teaching UFLI, follow the scope and sequence. It was made that way for a reason. Number 4, be knowledgeable about the phoneme differences between English and students' home languages and teach them explicitly. At first, I wrote mindful, right? Be mindful, but nope, that's not it. Because mindful means, yeah, like I'm sure there's a difference and I'm sure that makes it difficult. And knowledgeable means that I'm intentionally seeking out information that I can apply to my teaching, right? I attached an awesome guide to the resources that's made by some incredible educators, which digs into like where is there transfer and not transfer between English and Spanish, right? So, and like one example of that is short vowels. They're different. They're different. Also, like big picture, Spanish doesn't have variable vowels. Their vowels are not playing these games. They stay in their lane, right? The same is true in DC. We have a huge Ethiopian population. Amharic has 7 vowels, right? And they stay in their lane. They really behave themselves, right? And so it's really important for us to know that. And it's also important not to like frame this as doom and gloom. Like sometimes people see this and they're like, "Oh no, like Spanish doesn't have the sh sound. So this is going to be so hard for them." Like, no, first of all, like, right, multilingualism is a superpower, period, right? And we know that our kids come with so much like metalinguistic awareness and cognitive flexibility, their cultural competence, like all those strengths. But also sometimes they literally know more about print and could bring that to something that native English speakers don't know yet, right? Like I think about long vowels. If you have a student who is biliterate, like they've already encountered long vowels, reading them in words like gato or here, that oo sound in uno, right? So honoring that, right? These are strengths that kids are bringing, but I have to know that. I have to know about what my kids are bringing. Another helpful tool is to draw students' attention to the difference in the mouth formation of different vowel sounds. And the way that we produce these is so slight in their difference, okay? And I want you to try this where you are. Try to put these different vowel sounds between the letters B and T. There's one that's an exception because it wouldn't be a real word, right? So I'm gonna just put my hand on my chin and we're gonna feel the difference as we put these vowels between B and T. Beat, bit, bait, bet, bat, bite, bought, bought, butt, boat. This is one it wouldn't be a real word, so we have to go book because boot is not or that boot is that word. Boot, butte. The mouth difference is very, very slight, but has huge implications for meaning, right? So we can lean into this with students, but my friends at Institute, we the fancy name, articulatory gestures to help kids really think about the differences between sounds, right? So calling attention to where your teeth, your tongue, your lips are, what they're doing can be really helpful, especially for ML students. I see this is like from my kindergarten group. I see them look at this and touch their mouths every single day. I will be 100% with you that some researchers feel differently about that, around like how that can support reading. But I also will say that this research was originally done by one of like the most respected researchers in the field, Dr. Airy. Like if you ever hear someone talking about phases of reading development, that's Dr. Airy. And very successful programs like UFLI use this. SIPS just added a note on articulatory gestures to the back of their sound spelling cards in this latest edition. So do I think you should spend 15 minutes a day on this? No. Do I think you should spend hundreds of dollars on a sound wall? Also no. But I've had a ton of success with this practice, and a lot of people who are much smarter than me see the value as well. So I'm going to just also notice this phenomenal teacher.
So everybody put your fingers next to your lips. Say I. Say eh. What did you notice? What did you feel, María Eugenia?
Abrimos un poco menos la boca que en E, porque si hacemos E, así, muy poquito abrimos la boca, pero si hacemos casi toda la boca.
Ms. Escajeda provides her students with a bridge from Spanish to English by talking explicitly about the connections between the two languages.
If you notice, when we hear E, do we also hear it in Spanish? Es una de las vocales, right? It's one of our vowels.
I mean, phenomenal teacher, like such powerful learning for her students, and that this is another important way that we're building vowel knowledge and students' understanding of the phonology, which is essential to their success. Another great activity is doing what we call vowel discrimination word chains. Our friends at Institute got some of these in their materials in the spring. But what I love is that these, Elkonin boxes, they're super easy to make. You can just make it yourself. You can also use it digitally and really focusing on kids onto the vowel sounds, right? So I'm going to show a quick video, but you can also look on Oakland Reads on that website. There's some good examples of this as well. This is one I did with my student. Please notice his dance at the end.
Pause.
Good. New word.
Hit.
Very good. New word.
Pet.
New word.
No. Met.
Last one. Ready?
Set.
Good job, buddy. Right? Really focusing on he killed it, even caught himself with that correction, which I loved, right? focusing on those vowel sounds. You can also do this digitally. I also included in the resources this UFLI blending board. We were going to practice one quickly together, which we can still do, because I love this about the blending board is that you can pick exactly which sounds you want in there. So you can go in there and say, oh, these are the ones that I want, right? And so I can go in there and I can start with a word. If y'all could unmute yourselves and tell me my word. What's my word?
Sit.
I changed the vowel. New word.
At.
Beautiful. New word.
At.
Good. New word. New word.
Set.
Good. And so what I would really want to do is if I had someone take control, is I would say change to e, right? Then say, what's the new word? Feet, right? I would have them do it too, so that they're actually also very attuned to like, okay, which one am I changing? And being able to read it that way. It gives it just another layer of challenge and practice for your students. Sorry, I'm going fast, but I just want to, I'll come back to that. The last thing I just want to say is that like, really, last but not least, is that we need to foster this linguistic curiosity and flexibility. Kids love playing with words, right? They do. And this is like uncool to say, but like playing Wordle connections and spelling bee with my partner before bed is like it's my favorite time of my day, right? Like this is a picture of my kids. They're working together to sort long and short vowel sounds, and they fight over who gets to pick the next word, right? They're naturally curious about language, and we've got to continue to foster that. Zarek Hammond talks about like the dopamine and oxytocin of learning, right? The taking on the challenge and the act of doing it together. That is like the fire we need to motivate kids to keep them going through when vowels get more difficult. Because as we see, there's a lot to know about vowels, right? They're variable. And English has some very real irregularities. So we want to model that flexibility, celebrate it, and also help learners develop awareness of what they did to decode a tricky word. So the last thing I'll show is just like highlight opportunities to do that. So if I'm getting a word, right, while you're reading together, and they say, ald, ald, prompt them, flex that vowel. What else could it be? Then they might try the long sound. Old, old. Then ask them, what did you do to just fix that up? Right? Give them the awareness and name what they did. Oh, you tried both the short and long sound. Name that for them so that they can get better strategic and that awareness about what strategies they're using, why and when, because that's going to help them with other words moving forward. I know that was a lot and I was going fast because we had a lot to cover because there's truly so much about vowels, and we're going to send you this whole presentation. But really just some big takeaways is that proficient readers and the grown-ups who teach them, us, need to know way more about vowels than A, E, I, O, and U. Our instruction needs to address both the phonology, the sounds, and the orthography of vowels, the spelling. The patterns must be explicit and systematically introduced. Don't forget closed and open, make up 75%, a lot of bang for your buck there. And this is critical for tackling multisyllabic words. Vowels are variable. We need to support readers in becoming flexible and strategic decoders. Oral language is everything, right? They'll hear how to flex it when they know the words. And that this work is constantly evolving. And so I hope that there's more opportunities for us to learn and continue to practice this together. Again, there's a lot to know, and I know that it's a lot. I would love to hear from you. If you have any questions, you can always email me. I want to honor your time if you've got to get your lunch or running to another meeting, but happy to stay on if anyone has any specific questions. I'm really grateful to see so many of you again and to be here with you.
Okay, OLC friends, that was a lot. I'm sure there's a lot whirling around in your head. And like Celestina said, even with the key takeaways, if you are just curious about learning more and going in deep on a regular basis with Celestina, we really would appreciate if you could fill out the feedback link. If you're having trouble accessing the note-taking guide, we have just very strong protection with our Google Drive. I will make sure that we send that out with the slides again after this. And I'm sorry that I've had to grant you all access. Please do take a minute to fill out that feedback form. Annette just put it in there. And there was one question in the chat, Celestina, before people sign off that I think would be important for everyone to hear. Jennifer asked, is there a resource that presents the most frequent vowel patterns where orthography is different from phonology, like bread, and heat, that you might recommend? Is that something that's already in the additional resources or something that's a go-to? What would you recommend?
So there's in the resources, there is the spelling catalog. And what I love is that it's split up by both like what do these letters most typically represent? So like, okay, EA, it most typically 63% of the time is presenting E, but also on the bottom of it, you'll see, okay, it goes by vowel sound. What most frequently represents E, which is actually EE. So it has both of those on there. It's in the resource packet.
Thank you all so much for your time. If you have to sign off, it is 11:30. Do appreciate your feedback. And Celestine is so generous to offer some time if you want to stay on and ask some questions or offer some live feedback.
Yeah,
And Layla, I just granted you access. If anyone else is having trouble with access with anything, please email Annette or myself. And thank you all so much for spending the last hour and a half with us, Val, and enjoy the rest of your day. Also, just a little shameless plug. Literacy and Justice for All tickets go on sale September 2nd. Zaretta Hammond, who was on this webinar at the beginning, is our keynote speaker. So you do not want to miss Literacy and Justice for All, March 6th and 7th in downtown Oakland. And we will be sure to do more learning webinars and bringing folks together before that. Thank you all so much for your time and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, you too. Bye.
Thank you, my friend.
Brenda, I'll follow up with you and make sure that you have the additional resources separately.